Hey guys, I realized that the last video generated a lot of interest on the impending launch of the X2Dii Mark II from Hasselblad. So in this video today, we want to address the pricing of both the camera as well as the lens that is likely to be launched on the 26th of August 2025. Now upfront, I will tell you that the image that you saw in the thumbnail, this image here, is a simulated image. It is purely speculative and it's been touched up to represent the camera, the X2Dii Mark II, as well as the suspected 35 to 90 mm lens. Now, to give you the upfront summary, I think that Hasselblad is going to maintain the pricing, if not make it slightly cheaper for the X2Dii Mark II. And this is across Hong Kong and China. They're all likely to be cheaper by about 10% from the previous pricing. Again, I just mentioned, this is purely speculative. And in US dollars, it is likely to land between $7,199 US dollars and $7,599. And the likely E-lens that they're going to be launching, this supposedly 35 to 90 mm lens, will join the single E-lens right now, and it will cover 35 to 90 mm, or maybe 100, maybe 75 mm, I'm not very sure, but it's likely to cost about $5,929 US dollars, maybe even more than 6,000. Now, there is more tech for less money for the X2Dii Mark II. It is a win for consumers like us. With a reduced pricing on the body, the X2Dii Mark II, it is an interim Mark II model before the X3Dii anyway. So Hasselblad is likely to take this opportunity to get more people into the Hasselblad medium format camera ecosystem and then trap us in with the lenses. The lenses will be a better bet and will be a better investment for your money over the long run, because lenses will outlast bodies anytime. Now, if you have time, you can stay on for more details. I will include projected pricing across a couple of markets that I'm familiar with, and I'll share them with you. If you don't have time, then just take it and go. The body, the X2Dii Mark II, is likely to be cheaper by about 10%, but don't take my words for it, because we will have to wait until Hasselblad announces the lens on the 26th of August before we will find out. And there is a danger, right, that because I have leaked out the date, maybe Hasselblad or DJI will actually pull and change the launch date just to mess around with my projections. All right, since you're going to be staying around and you have a little bit more time, let me talk a little bit more about the current pricing of the X2Dii across the markets that I'm familiar with. Now in US, Hasselblad is selling this directly and the price is $8,199 US dollars. In EU countries, they are also selling directly and the price is 8,609 euros. Now this is down from the 11,228 euros that they launched the X2Dii with. Now in China, the price is in renminbi, Chinese yuan, and it's 54,900 yuan. In Hong Kong, which is not going direct from Hasselblad, it's going through Shiro Imaging, it is selling at 60,999 Hong Kong dollars. And in Singapore, it used to cost 13,649 Singapore dollars, but that was under CLES distribution, and now Shiro Imaging has taken over Hasselblad sales in Singapore, Hasselblad distribution in Singapore, and they've brought the price of the X2Dii down to a far more reasonable $10,899. Now, we don't have actual official pricing from Shiro Imaging in Singapore, so if you go to the website, they will actually ask you to call them or WhatsApp them to find out what the latest pricing are. So when the cameras are launched and in the store, you can call your favorite dealers or resellers and check the prices with them, and that will be the safest bet, right? So whatever you're hearing from this channel, just bear in mind that things change very, very quickly. So as I mentioned, Shiro Imaging is taking over from CLES distribution, and the prices are now much more reasonable than the prices that CLES was charging before. And how much less? I think it is between the range of 15 and 25% markdown. So the XCD25V, it used to cost 6,610 Singapore dollars, and now through Shiro Imaging, it is costing 4,899 Singapore dollars. And the X2Dii was marked down from 13,000 all the way to 10,899 dollars. The E lens, the single E lens, the 20 to 35E, It used to be about Singapore $8,579 or even up to $9,079. Now, it should be about $7,700 or so. Again, best to check with your retailer and even call up Shiro Imaging and get a quote from them. But one thing for sure is that for the Hasselblad fans in Singapore, you are no longer going to be ripped off by CLES anymore. So through Shiro, you're going to get a far better deal and far fairer pricing. Now, the next thing I'm going through is the projected pricing for the X2Dii. Now in USD, the price of the X2Dii Mark II is likely to cost between $7,199 and $7,599. I am really hating the 99, but well, it is what it is. So in euros, it is likely to cost between 7,599 euros and 7,999 euros. So you will recognize that this is a slight dip from the previous pricing of the X2Dii Mark I. In China, the renminbi pricing for the X2Dii Mark II will be 50,999, and in Hong Kong, 55,999 Hong Kong dollars. In Singapore, interesting, it is going to cost between 9,999 and 10,999 after accounting for GST. Now, this might seem to be a little bit higher, but it is going to be around that ballpark. Now, again, all these prices are speculative and unconfirmed. DJI or Hasselblad or even the Shiro Imaging, they may change it last minute. We don't actually know. So why is the X2Dii Mark II costing less than the X2Dii? Well, the X2Dii Mark II represents incremental technology shifts, and it is not producing better image quality than the X2Dii itself. The sensor is still the same sensor, and these are more quality of life features, right? You get better eye bits from 7 stops to 8 stop improvement, but it is not a completely new model. Of course, the LiDAR sensor is going to be a big thing and it's going to be a big tag for medium format sensors, but you know, it is a quality of life feature, not groundbreaking. Now, what happened in the past was that when X1D was launched, it was priced astronomically at $8,995. But when they launched the X1D Mark II, the 50C version, the 50 megapixel version, it was priced at $5,750, significantly lower than its predecessor, moving from the Mark I to the Mark II. So the drop actually made medium format mirrorless cameras much more accessible to a larger, wider audience, right? So today, we are unlikely to see that kind of 30-35% price drop anymore. Existing owners of the X2Dii will really get their value wiped off the surface of Earth if the camera really dropped to US $5,000. So I don't think that's going to happen. And you have to put it in the backdrop of whatever is happening in the camera world today. Cameras are getting really expensive. Systems from Sony, for example, the A1 and the A9, they cost about $6,000 already, 6,000 US dollars. And the Leica, the SL3 is going for USD about $7,500. The Leica M11P is going for 9,840 US dollars. So these cameras are not cheap, and Hasselblad is not about to price itself to way below these levels. Now, so far we have only been talking about the body. So what about that lens that we are speculating about? So we haven't heard much information about the lens. So it could be a prime lens in the P series, it could be a prime lens in the V series, or it could be a zoom lens in the E series, which is one it sounds like it's likely to be. I did a poll, and it seems that, you know, based on customer demands, based on you and me, we do want the zoom in the E series. So let me explain to you why I think it's going to be one heck of an expensive lens. So let's assume that it is the E series and it is a zoom from 35mm at a wide range up to maybe 75, 90 or 100 mm on the longer range of it. Now the lenses, and any lenses across any system, it will outlast the body, right? And this 35 to 90, 35 to 100 will cover a large range of focal lengths. Now, instead of going out with 5 lenses, the 38V, the 45P, the 55V, and the 75P, and even up to the 90V, you can do it all with just one lens. Now, albeit the aperture will likely be different, but the focal length coverage of this one single zoom lens from 35 to 90 is going to be huge. Now weight, right? Now this lens is not going to be light. I'm hoping that it comes in at about 700 grams or so, but instead of carrying so many lenses, right, this one lens is heavy, but it will just be only one lens instead of carrying the 5 lenses to cover the entire focal range that you need. Now you compare this to the older 35 to 75 mm, which was launched in 2019, June of 2019. That was a f3.5 to f4.5 aperture. It cost $5,175, and at that time it was probably the priciest lens that Hasselblad has produced. So the new E-series 35 to 90 mm will not be any less than that, especially if it is longer than 75 mm on the long end. So this actually could be Hasselblad's most expensive lens ever made. Now the E-series lens, the singular E-series lens now, the 20 to 35 mm is priced at $5,929. So this lens that we are looking at here, the one that we think that they're going to launch, is likely to cost a lot more than that. So there you have it. That's the estimated pricing of the new lens that they're going to be producing. Now there is one curveball in all of this, which is the tariffs. The tariff is going to affect Hasselblad. Now Hasselblad, well, it is Swedish, but it does make its stuff in Japan and in China as well, right? And if the camera is manufactured in Sweden, it is going to be subjected to a 15% tariff. If it is in Japan, it's going to be a 15% tariff. And in China, temporarily for the next 90 days or so, right, August until November something, it is staying at 30%, but there is a likelihood that it will jump to 145%, which will be mind-blowing for a lot of US consumers. Now, Hasselblad, the price increases so far that they have talked about in the past were only for the two lenses, the 45p, which increased $400 to $1,499, and the XCD 75p, which increased $600 to $2,899. But that was in April. Right now, the prices have kind of gone back to the original level. You can check the website now. It is still at the same original pricing, so it hasn't actually bumped up. Why? Because I don't know, maybe the tariffs were halted, but the lens, the 75p, was actually made in China, which explains the price jump. Now, Hasselblad bodies like the 907X100C and the X2Dii 100C, the Mark I, they are made in Sweden. But the batteries, the chargers, the accessories like the cables, they are made in China, and most lenses like the 90V, 45p, and the 55V, they are made in Japan, right? And this trend has a few exceptions, like the 75p, which is, I mentioned before, made in China. Now the sensor seems to be from Sony, and they should be made in Japan, but there could be some finishing touches that is made in Thailand, if I'm not mistaken. So as of August, the tariffs, they're going to be about 15% for EU, which already came down from the previous 20%. So it will impact Hasselblad directly. The 15% on Japan will stay for now, which previously was at 24%, so it's slightly more reasonable, I would say. But for Thailand, the previous tariff was 36%, now it's dropped to about 19%. It will still indirectly impact brands that sources these image sensors from Sony, because Sony, like I said, they actually finished the sensor production within Thailand itself. And then there's this problem of transshipment tariffs. So what are transshipment tariffs? The parts that comes from high tariff countries to low tariff countries before going to US, they are then subjected to 40%. Now, why this matters? Because tariff in Thailand is 19%, and then they ship the sensor into Sweden, which will attract a 15%. Then you get a problem. You get a 40% extra tariff because of the transshipment, because the product is then going to be shipped to US. I cannot imagine how complex this situation is going to be, and we don't know how it's going to evolve, but we do know that whatever it is, it will impact the pricing. But right now, as parting short summary to this video, it does seem that the indicative pricing for the X2Dii is likely to remain pretty reasonable. We might expect a slight 10% drop. So in US dollars, it's going to cost between $7,199 and $7,599. I could be proven wrong, I don't know, but put a pin on this video and revisit this when they announce the pricing. And if anything, I will be getting the X2D Mark II. I will be reviewing it. I'll be using it and testing it on your behalf, and I will share with you the pricing of however much I'm paying for it, and I will share with you the launch pricing. And also about the lens. The lens is likely to cost more as opposed to the X2D Mark II costing less than the X2D Mark I. The lens, depending on which one they launch, it will be a lot more expensive. Maybe if it is the P lens, it will be between $1,000 and $2,000, that range. If it is the V lens, maybe between $3,000 and $4,000. If it is the E lens, we will expect a $6,000 lens. All right, and so this is all I have to cover in today's video. I hope you have found this useful. Again, the best way for you to confirm the prices is to call your dealer, call your whoever country's distributor is, call DJI, call Hasselblad, and check with them the pricing at launch day. And which day is it? I don't know, but my speculation is still on the 26th of August, and that is where my money is. So I will see you closer to the date, or I'll see you in one of my other videos that I've done before.